Hi and welcome to LizetteInvita. Today we'll be making some bread pudding. My bread pudding tends to be more of a Dominican version of the bread pudding with some influence because I'm adding pecans with the South, since I have been living in the South now for over 20 years. So I'm going to post the ingredients so you can follow along, and then I'll show you how to make it. So we're ready to begin the milk mixture that we're going to be adding to the bread pudding, to the bread, the dry bread. So I'm going to begin by putting in a half a cup of melted butter, which is basically 1 stick of butter. So this is 1 cup of half and half. We're going to add 2 cans of evaporated milk. Evaporated milk is just basically milk that's been cooked down. And then we're also going to add 1 cup of regular milk. We are going to add our cinnamon, which is 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, about 1/8 of fresh ginger. If you don't have fresh, just go ahead and use your powdered ginger, that's fine. A pinch of salt, and a teaspoon of vanilla. So we're going to incorporate all this until it starts bubbling, but not to the boiling stage. Medium to high, and it's still melting, the butter's still melting and all that. I'm going to start cutting my bread and getting it ready for the pudding. So I'm cutting a pound of country bread, French country bread, which is a nice hearty bread. My milk mixture is just about ready. You see, it's almost about to boil. It's on medium-high heat. And now that that's almost ready, I'm adding my raisins to the bread. I'm going to mix it up a little bit, not much, because we're going to have to let this stuff soak. This is for me to incorporate to the eggs. Great. Now before I pour this mixture into the bread, I want to make sure that I have the eggs mixed in as well. So we have our 3 eggs and half a cup of sugar, and we're going to beat these until they're nice and fluffy. Now that I have the milk, I'm going to pour it into my fluffy eggs. But I'm doing that slowly so that my eggs don't get scrambled. So I'm doing just a little teensy bit at a time. Okay, now that I have my eggs all tempered, I'm going to put them aside for a second. And I'm going to take my milk mixture and butter mixture, and I'm pouring it right over the bread. See that? Right over the bread. We have our milk mixture and our egg mixture all incorporated. It's still hot. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it in the refrigerator for an hour before we start baking. I have my oven set to 350 degrees, and so now I'm ready to put my bread onto the molds. Now, if you notice, I have made a little decoration here on the bottom. I've basically taken some pecans and just lined them up as such and added some raisins to it, so that when you take it out and turn it over, at least there's a little something on the bottom there. It doesn't have to be super cute or anything, just, you know, it could be a mess if you want it to be. Now, this is optional, but I like to add some rum to this. I'm gonna add like 2 cupfuls maybe, which is probably about 1 tablespoon and a half or so. So I'm adding 3 just so that it's nice and spicy. You can pick whatever rum you like. I tend to like a darker rum. I'm gonna move it around a little bit. Now this was sitting in my fridge for an hour, cooling down. It won't cool down completely, but it should soak up most of the liquid that was in there. And as you can see, it's done that pretty well. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spoon it onto my molds, but I'm gonna be very careful not to disturb my sugar caramel in the bottom. Now if you like, you can put some more raisins on top or whatever, just so that it looks cute when you're baking it. But really the top of the bread pudding will be the bottom. So hopefully, if it turns out in these molds, I've never used these before, because I'm taking one big recipe and I'm turning it into 6 little recipes so I can give my neighbors some holiday gifts. So, but hopefully it'll work out just fine. And I'll finish the rest and then we'll put them in the oven for 45 minutes. It could be 30 depending on how quick they cook. But this is what it should look like. So now I'm ready to put my bread pudding in the oven. Since I have them in these small pans, I am putting them on a larger pan so that they don't burn. It's just a little way to protect them because they're such a small pan. And this recipe should be in the oven for 45 to 50 minutes, but since I'm using these smaller pans, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it in there for only like 30 minutes, and then I'll keep checking them until they're done. And the way you know they're done is if you put a knife into it and it comes out dry, or a toothpick if you like. My bread pudding is done. I hope yours comes out just as beautiful as these. My neighbors will enjoy them, that's for sure, and I hope you enjoy yours at home. Thank you very much for joining me here at LizetteInvita. Hope to see you next time.